Again, everybody, this is Ed Lynch on Streaming Baseball with excuse me, I'll start over. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. This is Ed Lynch. Welcome to Surfing Baseball. My guests are David Chandler, Authentic Bats, and former Major League player David Segui. We're going to here to talk about the not-so-new phenomenon of torpedo bats. We are available on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Afternoon, gentlemen. My first guest is David Segui. Incredible career, David. I didn't realize you were this good. I looked you up today, and 15-year career, a 291 career hitter. This is not, a September call-up. This is almost 5,000 at-bats in the big leagues. 291 average, 359 on-base percentage, which is about 50 points higher than last year's average in the major leagues, each category. Son of Diego Segui, 15-year major league pitcher. My other guest is David Chandler. Started out as a furniture maker, turned into a bat maker, founded Chandler Bats in 2009. Became world-renowned as an expert in the area of bats, and now is right in the middle of this with the Yankees with the torpedo bat phenomenon. David Chandler, I'll start with you. How'd you get started in this? I heard you were a furniture maker to start and then moved into bats. How did that happen?
Yeah, and with that said, thanks for having me and Dave Segui on. I started making baseball bats due to the feedback and angst that MLB was getting over all the broken maple bats, right? You think back to 2005, 2006, 2007, with all the issues of these bats breaking and putting both officials and players and dugouts and fans in harm's way.
I remember some fans getting injured during that period of time.
And there was that one week where I believe it was a Pirates bench coach ended up having a barrel helicopter off into the dugout, and he got a laceration from his ear down to his chin. And then a few days later, a fan in, I think it was an LA Dodgers game, a woman had her jaw broken. And, everyone raising a big stink about it, and understandably, saying, oh, someone's going to get killed unless MLB bans maple. And with my background, both in metalworking and precision manufacturing in metals, as well as coupled with furniture design, furniture manufacturing. And when we're talking furniture manufacturing, I'm referring to ultra high-end, bench-made, heirloom quality furniture. I knew easily that it wasn't the species of wood, it was how the manufacturers were making the bats. I had a presumption that they were making these maple bats in the same manner that they were making ash bats throughout the decades. And lo and behold, the truth was in there. When Major League Baseball then changed the rules for orientation of the label on the bat, right? We went from having the label put on the face grain side on ash bats so that you were instructed to hit 90 degrees to that logo. You would hit the edge grains of ash. MLB with its panel of experts said, no. With maple, it needs to go on the edge grain side for the logo so that they struck the face grain or tangential side of the bat. People disagreed with that, and I was like, no, that's really the way it should be. And I thought, you know what? If after all of these years of making baseball bats, a little over 130, I think at that point, or damn near 130 years, people didn't understand the differences between species, then, okay, I think, you know what? Not only can I make the game safer and give an opportunity for, fans, officials, players alike, to play it a bit more pure without worrying about projectiles, but it could probably also substantially raise the quality of this instrument that baseball players were using.
Wasn't one of the problems they were drying the bats too quickly and it was making the wood a little brittle? I heard that from someone.
Yeah, when you're dealing with some of the large barrel models that are sought after by players. Low density, very big volume barrels like your Edgar Martinez M356, Jim Campanis's 243. Bats I'm sure both of you guys
Sure.
are familiar with and probably even hit throughout your careers. There's a lot of volume. There's a lot of wood there. So to get a 34-inch, 31-ounce bat, you have to use very lightweight, low density, soft wood. And as a result, it's a bit more unstable. And you really, really have to pay attention to how straight the grain was. So there's two factors addressing your point about overdrawing and becoming brittle. Yeah, there are manufacturers and mills who undoubtedly overdrawing the wood so you could artificially lower the weight of the wood that you start with, so you could reach that point of where a player is looking to achieve a lightweight piece of wood, at least temporarily. But then also, I think most significantly, again, the manufacturers weren't paying attention to the true straight alignment of the grain, especially in the handle. And as a result, those barrels were flying off and putting people in harm's way.
Yeah. Well,
And
the maple wood, David, I'll go to you on this one. David Segui. I remember sitting in the dugout back in the 80s and even in the 90s when I was in the front office, and a player would square up a line drive to the outfield, and I remember Keith Hernandez hitting a line drive to the outfield and looking at his bat, and I would see the indentation of the seams on the ash wood. That's how soft it was. And the maple, David, did you see that when you were playing? And these maple bats seem harder to you and the ball comes off the bat faster?
Yeah. I mean, I was a guy that I was a bat whore. I was in the bat. So I took my bat and I boned it. I played with Pete Rose Jr. in A-ball, and Pete Sr. had provided a big, just massive bone that we would bone our bats with. So we'd sit up at night and take our ash bats and bone them as smooth and hard as we could to compact them. So, but that's minor league wood too. So you weren't dealing with the highest quality of wood.
Yeah.
And you could really see how much you could, press this bat down. Once the maple came out, I didn't care for them when they first came out because I was used to the flexibility and the feel of ash. And maple was it was very hard and very rigid, and you didn't feel a flex in your hands. It took a while for me to really buy into the maple game, but end of my career, I used a combination of both, depending on the weather. And in the cooler weather, I'd use ash and then maple when it was hot. But yeah, I mean, definitely maple does perform, I think, better, and you get more consistent out of a dozen bats. And ash, at the end of my career, you might get 2 gamers out of the dozen, where the maple you'd probably get eight
Wow.
really good. So it's cost efficient wise, even though you're not buying your own bats in the big leagues, it made more sense. You're getting that's why a lot of guys went to the maple, is the shortage of ash in my last few years.
Is it true that the ball will come off a maple bat faster than it will come off an ash bat, generally speaking?
That I don't know. I don't get into exit velo. I don't get into any of the launch angle and exit velo. I try to hit line drives and
David Chandler, is that true that generally speaking, if you dumb it down a little bit, does the ball come off a maple bat with more exit velocity, all things being equal, than the average ash bat?
No. When you look at the science of it, and when I'm talking and speaking of the science, when we look at the density, the pounds per cubic inch value, and how it relates to the hardness of each species, and let's actually look at birch, maple, and ash, all 3 of them. They're all relatively the same. They're all kissing cousins in terms of hardness and in terms of that density and the strength per pound.
What percentage of Major League bats are maple now?
Right now, oh shoot, it's got to be, with the proliferation of birch over the last couple of years, it's still got to be about 75 to 80%.
So you got 75% maple, and the other 25% are birch?
I'd say 24% birch, and then maybe 1% ash. I mean, Segui, you and I were just talking about Bryant. Bryant's using ash right now. How long he sticks with it throughout the rest of this season who knows? But again, to David's point, a lot of players having feel, right? And I think a lot of this harkens back to the pure type of hitter of David in your era, the pure type of pitcher of your eras. There's, I think, a different type of feel that was put into the game, and the senses were engaged a little bit differently than they are today. There absolutely is a difference between the ash and the maple, and there's a difference between the birch and the maple. And I think, again, guys not getting caught up in all of the metrics, not getting caught up, in launch angles and swing velos and all of that stuff. And not that they aren't important, but letting those current trends in statistics and metrics take over the game and pull out the feel of the game, right?
Yeah.
You used your eyes, right? David used his eyes a ton. Now to talk to players, whether it's at a high school or collegiate or minor league level, a lot of guys just aren't using their eyes. They aren't trusting their eyes. They aren't trusting their bodies, and they're looking for the easy angle and speed. And again, not that they aren't important.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the reason why guys have a hard time understanding the advantage of ash at certain points in the season now.
Yeah. In my opinion, after spending 40 years at the major league level in different capacities, the game and David Segui, you could probably talk in on this, but it's become a maximum effort game on the mound and at the plate. And, the thing that bothers me is, and I just read a quote from the guy, Aaron Lynch, I guess, is the guy that's people are looking at as the inventor of torpedo bats. I'm not going to get into that debate, but he asks hitters, and this is a quote, how to counteract the giant leaps in recent years made by pitchers? And David, I'll ask you a simple question. Is it tougher to hit in the major league levels now? And David Segui, is it tougher to hit in the big leagues now than it's ever been in its entire history?
Well, it appears so by watching these guys struggle at the plate. But I watch as a hitter, and I watch games, and I see. I believe it's more a issue of poor mechanics in teaching on the hitter side. And the pitchers now are attacking down the mound, attacking the hitters, and the hitters went to a defensive mindset at the plate to counter that. What they would say to improve velocity. As a hitter, I've never been in a dugout where guys were worried about how fast the guy threw. It was more movement and change of speeds is what we concerned ourselves with. You can go down to your local batting cage, and there's going to be some old fat guy in a pair of Levi's and some strapped, Reeboks, putting quarters in the fast machine, and he's barreling balls. So that tells you it's not about velocity. It's just because once you time a few of them, you're fine. But you mix in a changeup or you mix in some movement in that. Now you've really increased the level of difficulty. Now you make the hitting difficult.
Yes.
But I just believe that the pitchers, and I saw this at the end of my career, last few years, the pitchers started getting more aggressive in getting down the mound and attacking us as a hitter. And the new teaching was to stay on your backside and leverage. And that's a bad combination for a hitter. It doesn't give you the ability, like Dave was talking about, to trust your eyes, feel, be an athlete in the box, being able to get out on your front side when you're fooled and control that bat head to flip one over the shortstop's head for a single instead of swinging, out of your backside and swinging 2 feet over the top of it for a strikeout. It's just a change of philosophy in my book.
Yeah, in my opinion, when I used the word launch angle when I was a kid, it used to be called an uppercut. And and if you're uppercutting on a high fastball, you've got absolutely no chance. I mean, if you look at all the great hitters over time, there's a great video on YouTube of Roberto Clemente hitting a ball that's basically chest high, a hanging curveball from Mickey Lolich. He hit it in the upper deck in center field
in Detroit.
Right. And if you look at the replay from the side, he's out on his front foot, but his hands are back like Henry Aaron hit. but the ball was level all the way through the strike zone.
That was in the All-Star game. He hit it on the upper deck.
That's right.
That was 440 feet to the fence.
440 upper tank on a hanging curveball. So, I've talked to great hitters. You obviously, George Brett, you're a Kansas City guy.
Right.
I asked George, he said he would just try to get his bat in the strike zone as long as he can and level, and let the pitcher generate a lot of the power. And if he hit it on the top of his bat, it went up. If he hit it square, it was a line drive. Bottom of the bat's a ground ball. That was the launch angle he talked about, where the ball hit on the barrel of the bat. It just seems to me, if you have an uppercut, it's almost like the difference between a head-on collision and a T-bone. It's a hell of a lot easier to hit somebody in your car if they're coming right at you than if they're coming up to the corner and you're trying to time it perfect. Because it is almost like a T-bone when you're swinging up, and a head-on collision if you're keeping at that level through the zone. So I in my opinion, I'm a pitcher, so you and I, David Segui, are not going to agree on everything. Once we agree on everything, it's time to end the game. But if you are trying to hit with that approach on high fastballs, it's tougher to hit than it's ever been with the approach that hitters have right now, in my opinion.
You're going to struggle with the elevated fastball. And when we say elevated, we're talking about belt buckle now. Back in the day, it's not the letters anymore. It's the belt buckle. And then
the height of the strike zone, the upper part of the strike zone.
The belt buckles, if you threw a ball belt buckle high, when you released it, you were holding your breath because guys could stay on top of that. If you're leveraging, you don't have to go up to the letters. You can stay belt buckle high, and they'll go under. They dump the barrel behind them. It collapses. It was a collapse.
Yeah.
To teach launch angle. Launch angle is nothing more than hitting the ball at extension. The further out front you hit the ball, the higher it goes. The more you bring it back, and you level off the ball. You start. It's all it is understanding contact points. When you get out to the outer edge of your bat path, the bat will the barrel will invert and get underneath. And that's where these guys are playing with fire, is they're chasing power, so they're chasing everything at the outermost point of their swing. That's the edge of the cliff, right?
Yeah.
So as a pitcher, when you saw a guy getting way, way out front like that, a BP fastball now, he swings and misses. You just take a little bit, throw a little two-seam, take a little bit off, and you get a ground ball or a swing and miss.
Absolutely.
So you got to come back. I always tell the guy that's where the fine edge is, right? That's the edge of the cliff. Come back a step. Come back a step from the edge of the cliff, and there's a lot of success. There's nothing wrong with chasing you get a 3-0 green light, 3-1, 2-0 cookie, and you want to let it eat. That's fine. But if you're going to take that approach throughout 162 games, you're going to hit 200, and you'll fill two columns. You'll fill up the strike zone, the strikeouts, and you'll hit some home runs. But
exactly.
But you're not going to be a productive hitter in the lineup. That lineup's going to stop. I like to chase doubles. I like to chase doubles, and the line keeps moving. Puts pressure on the pitcher.
Absolutely. Well, David Chandler, let me just dumb it down for guys like me. So basically, the torpedo bat, you're distributing more mass to the area most frequently. That is the area of contact. And in theory, I don't know about this one. In theory, it increases bat speed if you move the mass down the bat. And they use the example of a broomstick versus a sledgehammer. I read that one on ESPN today. Yeah. Is it true that moving the mass towards the lower down the bat will increase the bat speed of the swing, David Chandler?
The long and short of it, yes. But let's again take into account a couple of things. Number one, if you're hitting the either a standard bat or going up like the 243 or the 356, very end loaded, right? Remember those bats where as the barrel's going up from the logo, the transition area, it continually just got wider and wider and wider and wider until it rounded at the top. It was a continual flare, right?
Yes.
So if I'm hitting a 34-31 with all of that excess mass, let's call it, at the last 2 inches. In fact, here, not a good choice. use this as an example. This does a pretty good job of staying straight up here. But again, so many of the bats before would just go up and get wider and wider and wider. All of this up here then became excess that was irrelevant and caused the bat to be very end loaded. So the balance point on it would end up having the barrel drop.
Well, you're going to be under some pitches. Your bat's going to be under some pitches.
So guys wanted those in drop 3.
Yeah,
they wanted it in drop 3. So now with the new torpedo design, obviously, if you're taking that excess material off the end and you're pushing it down just a few inches, again, we aren't talking about, I've seen the reports of, he got fisted at the logo and he hit a home run with it because the sweet spot is just above the logo. Bullshit. No, that's not what's happening. What we're doing is we're effectively taking this excess mass here and moving it down right about here for the apex of it. And as a result, this is the fattest part with the most mass, and you're thinning this down, so you're balancing and redistributing that weight. What the reality is with a torpedo bat, there's a few things. Number one, if I'm a hitter and I like David and like your counterparts, Ed, are looking to make a living off of striking a ball, and I do this torpedo design, number one, I'm not doing it in a drop 3. It becomes too light. You don't feel the head. If you can't feel the head, you can't place the head.
And for amateurs, a drop 3 is what?
Pretty typical.
Yeah, what does it mean? Drop 3?
Like a 34, 31.
Yeah, so like a 33
the difference between the length and the weight. Okay.
Yeah, it's that difference between the length and weight, that ratio. So if it's 33 inches, it's 30 ounces.
I got you.
For a professional player, say it's 33 and a half, 30 and a half, 33 and 3/4. We do a lot of 1/4 inch sizes now. So take 3 off of the length, and that's your weight. With the torpedo design, because again, we took that excess fat off the end and we pushed it a little bit more down the barrel. And again, a little bit. When we're talking about how much this has shifted barrels, if the sweet spot was right here, say on the bat, it's literally moved it here. We're talking an inch. Some of the bats that I've tested, half inch. Excuse me.
Which could make a discernible difference. Absolutely.
Well, it makes a discernible difference in terms of that balance point, what we call swing weight with my company. But it isn't, just to be clear, it isn't moving it and shifting it like a foot or 6 inches or, even 4 inches like people are writing about right now. So to answer your question, it makes it more manageable in terms of control, head control. But again, if I'm a hitter and say I normally hit a 34-31, or I'm Harper hitting a 34-31 and a half, if I change to a torpedo model and say I design one for Bryce, man, he's going to be hitting it at 34-32, 34-32 and a half, because you still need the feel. If you don't have that same feel, then I'm going to mess with his mechanics. In my mind, this torpedo bat is all about the transfers of energy from the barrel to the ball, so that when they collide, the barrel wins and the ball flies out.
That's what it all boils down to.
As opposed to the barrel kind of rebounding as the ball goes off in its own direction, right? But boom, they both go backwards. I want boom all the way through barrel to ball. So that's the reason the science is accurate and logical. And again, why I even messed around with it back in 2018. The other phenomenon with this that I found immediately was when you hold that bat in your hands, you instantaneously get a hand-eye coordinated visual of where I want to strike the ball. There's no doubt. Look at it this way, Ed. If I told you to get up on the mound and just throw it in the vicinity of where the catcher's mitt is, and he doesn't give you that target, versus the catcher giving you that target, how easy is it when the catcher puts his glove up, right, wherever you guys are in agreement of he's going to align at, of you be able to hit that glove, right?
Exactly.
It's exponentially easier.
That's why I don't understand why catchers move the glove while you're in the middle of your windup. They do
Right.
that.
Yeah, and you're like,
I mean, you just made my case for me, you know?
Right. So let's look at it from the hitter's perspective. And I look at this bat and I'm like, gee, there's the optimal spot. It's got a little bulge to it. I know where the best part of this bat is. Then as I'm tracking the ball in, and what do we teach these kids since they're 6, 7, 8 years old? Keep your eye on the ball, son. Keep your eye on the ball. Track the ball. They're tracking the ball in, as all professionals do. And all of a sudden, the barrel gets into the hitting zone, and I catch it out of the corner of my eye. And the visual on that is astounding. The first time I swung it, I was like, oh, yeah, I know where to hit.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it this way. If I hand this bat to you and say, hey, go barrel it up 20 times, even though it keeps floating in and out, versus if, and here's the sweet spot on this. There's the apex of the sweet spot. So on my torpedo design of this, I'm literally going to shift it, the apex, and that sweet spot's going to run for about 3.5 inches width. That's it. I'm going to shift it down maybe that far.
That's amazing. It. That's amazing.
So when this bulges right here, and that bat comes into my field of vision as I'm tracking the ball onto the barrel, it's as if I painted a red stripe all the way around your bat right here and told you where to hit it. That's the impact that most greatly affected the, let's call it average. Dave, what would you call this weekend? Well, you're the pitcher, Ed. What would you call this past weekend's pitching that the Yankees faced? Average, maybe a click before, a click below. You know, and again, not pissing on, you know, the team they faced, but let's face it, it wasn't great pitching.
Yeah.
But man, if I got that visual target,
sure.
You know, I'm at the shooting range.
David Segui, let me ask you, you know, we always hear about barrel management. Hitters talk about barrel management. Is that what David Chandler's talking about here? Is being able to manage the barrel of the bat, meaning you've got a better feel where you want it to travel to?
Yeah, much the same as a roofer with a hammer in his hand. You have to feel a certain amount of weight at the end of your. Dave and I, we really mesh in our thinking with bats. We're like that's our relationships become so strong. Like for years, I could call him up and say, "Hey, Dave, what if you took this bat and did this to it?" Or what? And he's like, "Oh yeah, I did that 6 years ago." And boom, 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 boom. He'd send me one for me or Corey to try. We'd test them out and we'd tweak it. Hey, can you do this to it? So there's nothing new. It's all about the individual hitter, and we call it. Like he referred to it earlier. It's an instrument. And here's the bat right here. That it's the speed. What is this? Flex trainer. But this was based off some different models that Dave cut years ago. And this bat, you can see the stretched long barrel. You see the really sharp transition where it bubbles out.
We used to call that a bottle bat, didn't we?
Yeah, right, back in the day. But they stretched. The new thing now is they stretch the barrel longer so you can carry the barrel longer through the zone, right?
Plus plate coverage. Yeah,
correct.
Dave and I would always talk about plate coverage.
Right. So, and we talk about swing weight. When we talk about each individual bat feels different in your hand. It's no different than a pitcher grabbing a ball. You can tell a pitcher will grab a baseball and say, this one's too big. This one's too small.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. In my sleep back in the day.
Same thing with a hitter. And it depends. A lot is dictated upon your swing. Your swing, every bat is not universal. One bat that's cut for me and my swing and my feel is not going to feel the same to another hitter with a different swing. So that's the beauty of what Dave does with authentic bats is he makes sure that when a player comes in, Dave listens. He's hearing what the players are verbalizing, and his mind's already spinning at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he's already formulating a prototype in his head of what bat does this guy need to get the desired feel, and a lot of times it's psychological, and he'll tweak.
He knows how to, absolutely psychological.
And he knows how to put a bat in a guy's hand to tweak their brain to get the desired feel. And a lot of times you get resistance because that's not the bat that they saw in their head. And until they grab it, they test it, and they see that it performs better than what they've been thinking they needed. And a lot of times that's a really big important part of the bat business is number one, giving the guys what they want, but sometimes it's educating on what they actually need to be a better, more consistent hitter. Right.
Well, let me make one thing perfectly clear. Of all the people in the world the Yankees could have called to further this concept, they called David Chandler. So that's a compliment.
Eventually.
Well, they did. They called you though, and now, hey, if I don't know if Seattle against the Marlins on a Tuesday afternoon hit 9 home runs, it would get the same coverage. But when the New York Yankees do it on opening day, as I told you guys last Sunday, by Thursday, when we're going to do the show, which is today, we've seen how this is blown up. I mean, it's on, they're talking about it on, national news broadcasts, not even sports broadcasts. So there's going to be, Major League Baseball is going to have to address this one way or the other. I'm not saying they should be banned, but they're going to have to clarify because it's going to flood the market now. And you're going to have people that don't know what they're doing, trying to make them, they're not going to be within specifications. And you, David, as a scientist, and David Segui as the artist, I don't think anybody's more qualified as a duo than you two guys to talk about the best way to maximize the effectiveness of this theory. So,
well, and with that said, Ed, the interesting thing is that I've got about another 20-25% improvement on the design.
Oh God!
I've got a client.
So last thing a teacher wants to hear.
No, he's got it.
Well, and you haven't even seen yet in MLB games what I'm doing currently, and I know I still have got about another 20-25% improvement to go. Quite honestly, my client who, as we said, contacted me only barely a month ago, not even a month ago. I think it was like March 7th, Saturday evening, 8:30 at night. Hey, Dave, can you talk sometime this weekend? Yeah, sure. I'm around. Half hour later, I get a phone call. Hey, we've got this pilot program. We've been working on it for a while. We need some help. We have not been able to find a manufacturer who can do what we're looking for consistently, with the quality and with the depth of knowledge and understanding. And I said, well, explain to me what you're looking to do and what this pilot program is all about. And so they laid out the Torpedo bat project, and immediately the light goes off because, as Dave told you, I've done some of these years ago. And I was amazed to find that their quest to raise the moment of inertia, and I'm sure you've read about, everybody has learned more about moment of inertia and things of that nature more now than we've ever known.
I was just thinking about, like, some of these guys, you get hitters that really don't know what they're doing or know what and they're just going to buy one of these bats or get one cut because it's a gimmick. It's going to hurt them.
Yes. Hurt them, especially in these drop threes that people are accustomed to. I'm a 33 and a half, 30 and a half. And so I'll get the Torpedo bat in the same. No. It's David, just like that flex trainer, right? That thing's not 33-30. That damn thing's 33-32.
Yeah, this was the 34 right here. Brock took the 33 and a half to practice. Then Grant swings the 33.
Yeah, in fact, I've got a 4 here. This 34, this is a 34-33. Easy.
This thing feels so good in your hands.
Yeah. But again, it has to be that heavy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
Or we're going to pull ourselves off the ball.
Yeah.
Right? All those things. And dude, some of the designs I've seen, how our Torpedo has that beautiful kind of just sexy.
A little slope. Yeah.
Beautiful, rear end of a woman, beautiful curve and arc to it. And dude, I've seen like that.
Yeah, like a wedge. Yeah,
it's like, oh my God.
And there was a bat model. Shit, I don't know who made. I can't. There was a bat model that was like it had a really wedge head, and I hated that thing.
Yeah, absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I remember Marucci used to cut it because I get it.
Well, they called you on March 7th. Your
Yeah,
client.
so yeah, the client called me on March 7th and expressed to me their desire to come up with a bat program that optimizes bat performance.
You're talking about the Yankees, right, David?
Yes.
Okay.
Takes the inherent, let's call inherent performance power of a bat and works to maximize that. I having played around with this before and understanding the finer granular details of moment of inertia, coefficient of restitution, and how the mass triangle of mass over density times volume, all of this stuff made instant sense to me, because again, that's been my pursuit as a master craftsman, and my pursuit of wanting to be the greatest bat maker in the world has been, how can I create the world's greatest bat player to player? And so when the Yankees came and said, hey, we've been messing around with this for nearly a year, we can't find anybody who can do all of these tasks, much less even understand the physics and science behind it. I said, look, I got your back, but and I didn't put this through to them as a couple of conditions, but I said, please respect and understand that I've got a couple of parameters that are of quintessential importance. Number one, density has to go up. That mass triangle that we talked about, mass over density times volume, those are all interrelated. They're all proportionately related to one another. And that's the foundation of moment of inertia, the power of the bat. So if I take volume down, meaning I take the barrel diameter down, but I go up in density, the weight of the wood to start with, the hardness of the wood, the resilience of the wood. If I go down on volume, but I go up on density, my target of moment of inertia remains a constant. I achieve my goal. And the other thing that I expressed to them, which I was so pleased that they're open-minded and forward-thinking and have done enough understanding of the true physics of everything. Let's get away from these tiny little pencil handles and let's get some meat in there. Let's get some grip size in there so the players can control the head as I go up in weight. And again, this is nothing new, right? Guys in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s. I mean, hell, let's go back to 1910 when they were swinging telephone pole handles, right?
That's right.
And again, that's an important part for our listeners and your fans of understanding that Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Honus, all of these guys of yesteryear, going way back, they aren't the athletes and specimen of the players today, much less players of your generation. I mean, hell, look at Segui right here. They weren't as strong, they weren't as fast, they weren't as maybe as big, but they weren't making this job 365 days a year. So they weren't the fine-tuned specimen athletes that we have today. Yet they were swinging bigger bats as effectively with more efficiency in most instances. And it came down to the fact that they went to war with a cannon. Guys are going to war today with a cap gun.
Well, what I think I hear you saying, and David Segui, I'll ask you, do you think bats should be heavier, bigger?
Oh, I'm a believer in big bats. I swung a 35 or a 34 and a half inch.
How much weight on that?
33 to 37.
Wow. You couldn't
because,
get a guy to swing a bat like that now.
Oh, no, these guys.
I have from time to time.
Yeah, you get it when you get them to try it. They're astounded that they can actually get it through the zone. It fixes a lot of bad mechanics. You can't jump on your feet. You have to maintain balance on your feet to control that bat weight. Right,
you can't
in your hand.
lunge, right?
Yeah, and then just using gravity, you're just dropping that bat head down and
Well,
out front.
theoretically, can you generate the same bat speed with a 34-ounce bat as you can with a 31.5-ounce bat? Theoretically,
I believe there's a certain threshold where a bat gets too light and it drags through the zone. You
it's
need
like
a certain
a plastic stick versus a wooden stick.
Yeah, you need a certain amount of weight. You got to feel that to create that, to move that. I don't know the science. I never break it down, but I know if I got too short or too light of a bat, I used a lot of I used my shoulders instead of my hands to throw the bat, and it was a slow underwater swing, right?
Yeah, David Chandler, I saw you shaking your head on that. If bats get heavier, you can't generate the same bat speed.
No, you can't. But what David's referring to there is the phenomena of there's two parts to the swing equation. There's the initiation, and then there's the rest of the swing. Yeah. So what David's referring to is he didn't feel as a 15-year MLB player. He didn't feel that much of a difference throughout the entire swing, though the initiation of the swing would have been momentarily slower. Here's the key, though.
I got you. Yeah, I know.
Dave started earlier.
Yeah.
And Ed, before when we were talking about the differences of players today versus yesterday, whatever that yesterday is, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. When was the last time you guys have watched a game and you see a guy shift in the box?
Never. Hey, I remember in the 80s, Keith Hernandez would set pitchers up. He would stand on top of the plate against a left-handed pitcher. When the guy put his head down to start his delivery, he's finishing, he'd jump back, and the guy thought he'd jam him. Right. They were creative. Hitters were creative. You look at old films of guys; they're all over the box.
Right.
Now they're
Pete Rose. Yeah, Pete Rose, master.
Pete Rose all over the box. Babe Ruth used to walk
in,
up,
out, front, back. Right.
Absolutely.
And anytime a player complains to me when they're ordering, and again, I'm talking about the professionals here, they're ordering 34 31s, and I'm like, yo, dude, you're overpowering the bat. You're losing efficiency of your swing because you're overpowering the bat. You're pulling off the ball, like what David Segui is referring to, because of the lightness of the bat. Let's go up an ounce. Let's go up an ounce and a half. Let's go 34 32. Let's go 34 32 and a half. And you think I just broke into their house and robbed them? Oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. You can bench press how much? And you're worried. Right. You know what? You're worried about someone blowing the ball by you? Start earlier.
So David Segui, they're worried about being late. When they bring the weight up, they're afraid they're going to be late on the fastball. Is that basically what it boils down to?
Yeah, everybody's worried about velo now. Velo. And while high velocity is nice to have in your back pocket as a pitcher, if you don't have location, I don't care how hard you throw it over the middle of the plate.
They don't have any location now. And the injuries are going through the roof because of this max effort on velocity and spin rate. And if I threw a complete game, say in 1985, I had 6 complete games in 1985 for the Mets, which would have not only led individually last year, but it would have been more than any team had last year. And Dwight Gooden had 20 that year, by the way. If I threw 110 pitches in a 9-inning game, I might throw 4 or 5 pitches as hard as I can, max effort. 0-2 fastball up here, or I really want to snap off the 0-2 slider in the dirt. Otherwise, I'm staying in control and I'm hitting the spots. Now, the problem with that for me now is and I'm getting a little off subject here, but I always say the three B's are the pitcher's biggest problems now: the balls, the bats, and the ballparks. The balls are like the pitcher's called the Pro V1, which is the most popular ball on the PGA Tour. And you look at some of these ballparks. I mean, Yankee Stadium is ridiculous. I don't know what the dimensions are. I remember when I was a kid, it was 296, but it went to 401 like pretty quick and straightaway right field. But in Yankee Stadium and a lot of these ballparks, Baltimore, Philadelphia, as a pitcher, you don't have anywhere to go. I mean, like in Houston, it's a joke to left field, but at least you have center field.
Yeah.
So I know I'm getting a little off subject here, but this is the pitcher of me coming out. So as the technology gets better on these bats, it's going to get even worse in terms of, they say it's harder to hit now than it's ever been, but I'll say, well, what's the hardest thing to do in a game? Well, hit a home run. Well, if it's harder now to hit than it's ever been, how come there's more home runs than ever? And it's because guys are trying to hit home runs. That's all they're doing.
You'll dumb into them, like you said before.
That's right. But as David Segui said, you're going to punch out 200 times and hit 214.
But we're rewarding that.
Yes, we are. It's you know what, David Chandler, you just said it. It's the reward system. It's the great thing about playing in the 70s and 80s is I was judged on one thing, whether I got people out or not. And wins were gold. Wins was what you went for. Now it's velocity, spin rate, strikeouts. That's the reward system. I mean, I read all the time, this guy's got a big future because he throws 100 and his spin rate is X. He's got a 7 ERA. Oh, that's
7 ERA, and he pitches 4 innings a game.
Well, I'll tell you what, the average major league start, I think last year was just over 5 innings, and now this year it might be below 5 innings. Average start might be 4 2/3 innings.
Quality.
Now, if that's the baseball that you want, great, you got it. But I don't know. I mean, what's the most valuable commodity you have in football? It's the quarterback. Every rule change is made to help to protect the quarterback. I can make the argument the most valuable commodity to have in baseball is your pitching, your starting pitcher, say. Every rule change, I can't think of a rule change since 1968 that was implemented to benefit pitchers.
Well,
they lowered the
clock sure as hell isn't.
Yeah, they took away the shifts. Now they check their gloves for substances, and that's fine. If that's the way you want to do it, this is what you're going to be left with. This is what you're going to be left with.
Yeah, because the fans want to see offense, and then when the pitching starts dominating the hitters, the games move faster. There's not enough offense, and
there's not enough balls in play. The problem is, if there's balls in play and guys are making great plays, there may not be offense, but at least there's action.
Yeah, I agree. Swinging and missing is not offense to me. But
no,
I'd rather see a 12 hopper back to the mound than swing and miss, swing and miss, swing and miss. But
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, what I think we're heading towards in terms of at least the three geniuses in this room is it's a harmonic balance on both sides of the ball. And I think I love the fact that, I'm not a player, I'm but a simple woodworker. But we've got an accomplished professional pitcher with a storied history. We've got an accomplished hitter with a storied history. And it's a harmonic balance of all of these different variables on both sides of the ball, right? And I think when the game is attacked in that manner, whether it's lively balls with higher performing bats, and I'm not saying illegal because these bats are not illegal.
No, well, the rule is so basic. I mean, their rules are so basic, it's ridiculous.
Right. The stuff that we do to fortify the bat and eke every ounce of performance out of it is no different than more lively balls or raise the mound, another half inch, another inch, and the advantage that, things of that nature can give the pitcher. I think these are all good things for the game. I think the game is more exciting when Dave Segui can step up and absolutely take advantage of a pitcher when the pitcher makes a mistake.
Sure.
Just as much as you, Ed, can go ahead and make a hitter like David, look incompetent because of the movement you get on a ball or pitching 4 sliders in a row as opposed to, slider, fastball, that type of thing. As well as even, again, the advantage of having a little bit more height on the mound. I think the challenge is, and ultimately what I'm trying to say is that balance between give the hitters some advantages, give you, the pitcher, equal advantages, and let it be fun, let it be a game, let it be a sport, as opposed to trying to always, harness or, handcuff one side or the other. I see some of these
Sure.
rules as just kind of handcuffing. Like I said, the pitch clock, I think is one of the worst things in the world.
Oh,
If
I
I'm
think it's the
worried about
greatest
my
thing. I think it's
investment,
the greatest thing. I think
well,
it's the greatest thing.
yeah, but if I'm looking at my investment of those arms and I'm rushing you,
Yeah, but that's for another discussion for another day.
All right.
I mean, I don't think the pitch clock is causing injuries that are significant. It's the spin rate is what's causing the elbow injuries.
Fair enough.
That's I've heard that. I mean, I can go as far to say I think the pitch clock might have saved the game. I mean, the year before the pitch clock was instituted, the games were becoming unwatchable. I mean, you had a 3 hour and 28-minute, 3-2 game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's brought down the time of game. Now, people say it's caused injuries. I don't agree with that, but that doesn't mean I'm right or you're right or we're each wrong. I don't know. But I agree with you.
I certainly don't know the data on that either. I just, again, if I'm looking at my investment as an owner and as an organization and a pitcher, and it feels like they're getting rushed. But then again, who knows? Maybe
look at the injuries. It's spin rate on the ball. The old thing was, when you throw a break. When I was coming up, it was work fast, pitch to contact, meaning pitch to where the guy's going to put the ball in play. Make him hit your pitch within the strike zone or just outside the strike zone. Now, pitching to contact is a big negative because the ball is so lively, in my opinion, that anything off the barrel that's in the air in most of these parks is going to be a home run. So, I mean, you're pitching away from contact, and that means more breaking balls, and that means you're snapping them off. Open the doorknob is something you never used to do on a breaking ball because it's so bad for your elbow. You're pronating this way and then snapping back this way. And the proliferation of, Tommy John surgeries, but that's for another discussion. But I think we covered the torpedo bats pretty good.
Ultimately, in summarizing it, the design should stay. The design is a great concept. It gives me an engineering approach and an artistic approach and that pursuit of performance that I was speaking of. It gives me a little more to work with now that it's become accepted. I think that it can, if properly dosed out, again, the bats have to be heavier, 34-31 in a torpedo, not a good combination.
Because it'll break too much or it just
you
can't control it?
Both. So physical injury potentially as well as breakage. If you're maximizing and trying to get the MLB minimum diameter or maximum diameter rather, shape at the sweet spot, 2.61 inches.
2.61 inches, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a 42 inch length.
Yeah. Yeah. You're driving down the density of the wood, the hardness, the resilience, all of those things. So instead of being big, let's go a bit more moderate. And when we go a bit more moderate with it, I get to use harder, more dense, more resilient, more readily available, stronger, just more pure, everything I'm looking for in a baseball bat. If I'm looking to create the world's greatest time after time, one of the issues I've been up against for years is the fact that people think hitting a 2.60 diameter barrel is easier than hitting a 2.5. Reality, because we're dealing with pointillism, right? Round ball, round bat colliding. You're dealing with pointillism. There really is no difference between the two. So, once we are able to convince people that, come down moderately in barrel diameters, I go up in density, more hardness, then you're really going to see balls jump. Because I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy until I get 126 miles an hour ball exit velo. That's chasing it. And I've had some 118s, 119s, maybe a 120.
Well, David Chandler, when they got Aaron Judge up there and you look at the dugout and the manager's telling you to play even with the bag, you tell them you come out here and play even with the bag. Right. It's right there.
Well, Judge
close off at David Segui. Do you think these torpedo bats are here to stay? you think that the usage is going to grow now with the exposure it's had moving forward?
Well, obviously, there's going to be a big spike in the interest simply because of the media attention. It's going to stick around because there is some science to it. This is something that Dave, like I said, Dave's been playing around with this pinching the transition, moving it up and down, and creating a different feel in the hitter's hands for years. So, yeah, this is going to stick around. We were talking a little bit off air a few minutes back, but, for some hitters, it may hurt their swing or hurt their performance because it's not a cookie cutter one bat fits all. It's kids are going to say, "Oh, I want the Torpedo bat." Well, what version of Torpedo? There's a million different versions of.
Yeah, it's like saying, "I want a bat. I want a bat."
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you want
or a glove, right?
Or a glove, right. Exactly. Yeah.
You want the one that's designed to fit your swing, your feel, your hamstring. There's so many factors, and that's what Dave does really well, is taking all those factors into consideration before he cuts the bat. So that when I pick up the bat, it's basically a pair of shoes designed for my foot and only my foot, right? Right.
Yeah, David Chandler, what's with the average kid wants to look at your theories and your inventory? What's the best site to go to? What's your website?
Oh, we've got authenticbats.com,
okay.
and there's a whole section in there on swing weight, and what we do with swing weight in terms of a swing weight bat, and giving a power reference or a power indicator so that at a glance you can tell, is this something that is more of a balanced feel, more of an end load feel, because there are two different types of hitters. Dave Segui is not a balanced feel guy, right? He has to feel that head. He has to know where the head is so he could place it at all times. And again, big, strong, violent, yet under control swing type of guy.
Exactly.
There are other guys that are your contact hitter type of players who are all about control, all about balance, all about, okay, wait, okay, boom, and I'm putting the barrel on the ball. And again, we're not saying they're swinging violently as a contact hitter because it's, little Timmy at 125 pounds, but, they're being very selective of when and how they swing, and so they need a contact hitter bat. They aren't meant to muscle the ball, because if they do, it's going to be a can of corn. So our website.
Well, let me, David, what is your website? David, by the way, David Segui, I've been around a lot of hitting guys, and I remember Andy McPhail and I interviewed a couple of hitting guys, and Andy said, "This guy must be really good." I said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Because I didn't understand a word he said." The type of guy that talks in riddles, and that's usually the guy that's never had a major league at bat. But David Segui is one of the finest hitting people I've been around. He speaks to even like a dumb pitcher like me can understand what he's talking about. David, do you have a website, just davidsegui.com or something of that nature?
For me?
Yeah, for you. Do you have a website?
No, I got a cell phone.
You ought to get one because you're probably going to need one.
Well, no, that's the interesting part. Hitting, I always say, hitting is simple. It's just not easy. Right, because you on the mound are trying to eat. Right, you're trying to eat.
That's right.
But it's a simple task. It's just not easy.
That's right. That's a great way to put it.
People don't want simple nowadays, though. They want complicated. They want flexion, extension, your pinky toe and relative to your thumb, and whoa. And I don't talk like, let's create some backspin. Let's just try to get balance.
Paralysis by analysis, we used to call it. So. Well, thanks very much, guys. We've been at it now for an hour, and I thought it was excellent. And as I told you, David Chandler, I hope you increase your inventory because all the publicity that's been generated because of opening day you're probably already seeing it, but you're going to see more of it. But thanks very much, guys. I'm sure we'll be in touch again as the season goes on, as things develop, and I appreciate your time very much.
Oh, thank you, and surfing baseball. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We can do this all day long. Yeah.
Okay, we're done, guys.